What's up, it's Daveincid with the second episode of my XXL All Nations Playable series. Before I created this video, I asked the community on social media what they want to see in this episode. The majority of you asked for the Newgens behavior and more unique stories like the biggest rises or falls in the FM world. Beside that, I will take a closer look to teams which I've changed finances. There will be Hertha BSC, Barcelona and Brazil in general in the focus. I left China out because it's a better save, so I can't show you the changes correctly. Another topic will be nations which took a very good or bad development in the last 12 years. Let's begin. Just after you subscribe my channel. One of the most popular topics in Football Manager are Newgens. How good are they? What's their nationality? Are there wonder kids from very small nations? And is the number of good or world-class players realistic in the future? All these questions will be answered somehow. First of all, it must be said that a high potential ability is of little use if it cannot be achieved by the player. This has become more difficult with my injury file as players injure themselves more. More to that later. So you have to take both values into account. How many players are there who have a high potential and also achieved it, and how many do not achieve them for various reasons. It must also be said that while the current ability says a lot about the quality of a player, it is far from everything. There are many important attributes, most of them are hidden, and they don't have any influence on the potential ability or the current ability at all. However, the current ability and potential ability values are well suited as a rough orientation. I use the FM Scout editor and filter for Newgens with a PA of at least 140, which can be a good Premier League player. I set the maximum age at 28. The reason for this is that I have now simulated 12 years and I now assume that a player with 16 will be generated. In order to have a comparison with the database at the start of the game, I also set the age to 28 over there. With my Megapack, this results in 675 players with a current ability of at least 140. World-class players with a current ability of over 180 are only 4. If you now compare this with the starting game, there are 481 players with a current ability of at least 140 and 4 of them have a current ability of over 180. So the number of world-class players is therefore at the same level as at the start of the game. The number of good players has increased. Players with a current ability of 160, it will be 47 at game start and 62 in 2032. So the level in world football will therefore improve slightly, but more broadly than at the top. This development is roughly what I have planned for the game. The exact comparison will probably only be available after another 5 years, so there will very likely be another episode. In terms of nationalities, there are no big or unrealistic surprises. Most of the best players come from the very big nations, which should be the case. The first surprises are Dimitar Berbatov 2.0 at Borussia Dortmund or 3 world-class players from Uruguay. They have already overshadowed Cavani and Suarez, more on that later. There is also Arturo Vidal 2.0 or Luka Modric. The first really big surprises are Mohamed El Tahir from Sudan and Fayez Faltaha from Saudi Arabia. Falata would have a PA of 193, but is running out of time to reach it. The nationalities of the Newgens naturally have a major influence of the strength of the national team. Uruguay has achieved one of the greatest successes. They won the World Cup in 2013, among others with Matias Arezzo, who was named the best player and scored 7 goals in 7 games. However, he was even outbid by his strike partner Emilio Machin, who scored incredibly 10 goals. Crazy. But if you beat Italy, Argentina, Portugal and Spain in a tournament, you definitely deserve to be world champion. But there was actually a much bigger surprise, almost unrealistic, and actually I should post it in the SEBOK forum. Let's move on to the European Football Championship winners. For the first time, England! Call it my dry British humor or so, I hope you understand my sarcasm. Of course the title is highly deserved for England. Otherwise there are no big surprises at the national team level, so I move on to the club level. I just take over Hertha BSC Berlin for now. The financial overview is surprising at first. Lars Windhorst has changed his stake and now has Hertha floated on stock exchange. That was in the year 2027. Since that year, the investments have also stopped. The club should now be self-sustainable. Hertha also have no sugar daddy support anymore according to FM Scout editor. Although the club is now 100 million euros in the reds, it's financially healthy, has no debt and is quite successful in sports. Last season they reached second place in the Bundesliga and are guaranteed to play Champions League. They won the DFB Cup last year and had already won the Conference League and became second in the Europa League. With the transfers you can also see the changes from 27 season onwards. In phases you are dependent on sales and invest at the same time. I really like that. Let's move on to Spain. FC Barcelona is very fascinating. You have managed to pay off all debts and at the same time you are really successful in the league. 7 championships in the last 12 years is great. Financially, however, it seems as if they have already forgotten the past. They acted very responsibly until 24-25 season. In the 28-29 season, however, they already have a transfer minus of over 200 million. It's definitely very risky and I strongly suspect that they need another bank loan soon. Let's move on to Hamburg SV in the German Bundesliga. 7 relegations or promotions in 12 years. As a fan, you need good nerves. At first, they failed to quickly return to the first division. When they finally made it in 24-25 season, it went 2 floors down into the third division. There, they finished second and got promoted back to the second Bundesliga. After a year, they even made it back to the Bundesliga, but then went down again 1 year later. Another year later, it went up again. In German, we call this Fahrstuhlmannschaft, an elevator club, crew, whatever. Financially, it was only possible through a consortium. Taking out a loan was still necessary. On the whole, however, the club is surprisingly stable, financially. However, the salary costs are also much lower than they used to be. Even FC St. Pauli pays more overall. The Hamburger Derby in the first Bundesliga, Football Manager makes it possible. Let's switch the continent and go to Brazil. The dominance of Flamengo came to a quick end. After 7 titles in a row, they could not celebrate a single championship title for the next 7 years. I'm now trying to track down the reasons. They're doing a good job financially. They were seldom in the reds and in the meantime even 72 million euros in the plus. In summary, transfers are balanced with sales a little higher than purchases. Individually, sales are significantly higher. Record sale is Santos for 64 million and the record purchase is Jair Ganyas for 36.5 million euros. So far there have been 10 transfers over 20 million euros in the whole league. In real life, the previous record was Gabriel Barbosa for 17.45 million. But if you look at the financial development in football, this is fitting for me. Above all, it was important to me that there were no transfers over 60 or even 80 million euros, and that works really good. Flamengo also has the most expensive squad and pays its best players around 3.4 million euros a year, which is the equivalent to 2.8 million pounds. According to my internet research, Gabriel Barbosa currently earns 2.1 million pounds a year. An increase is wanted, but within the framework, so the values are exactly in the range I had in mind. The club that still impresses me the most is FC de Alverca in Portugal. As already mentioned in the first episode, the club has moved from the 4th division to Liga NOS in Portugal. The club actually managed to establish themselves in the league. Finances did not always look very good without support. With the sale of their local hero Fabio Santos, who not only came from their own youth but was even born in Alverca, the club is financially solid. I have rarely seen such a success story for an AI-managed club. Finally, I would like to show you a few players whose careers have been significantly influenced by several of my files. My first choice was Michael Bala from Leeds. Young players from Nigeria are a transfer preference for Portugal, so at the age of 19, he moved from his home country to Moreirense in the Liga NOS. He couldn't really assert himself there. If you do not speak the language, it is difficult for a young player to integrate properly at the beginning. So he moved to Montpellier in France for 3.1 million euros. There he was immediately a regular player, and after 2 seasons, Leeds paid almost 80 million euros to bring him into the Premier League. There too, it didn't work right away, as it did in Portugal, and he was loaned out to the Spanish side Celta Vigo. There he was again a regular player and then came back to Leeds for regular appearances. So from the metropolis in Ilorin in Nigeria, via Portugal and France to England, well, I would say that's a dream for every footballer from Nigeria. But things don't always work as planned. Saverio Pugliese also had the dream of a great football career. The 1.86 m tall central defender from one of Italy's best youth academies at Atalanta has a potential ability of 155. It would have been enough for him to be a very good Serie A player, if not even an Italian international. Now at the age of 25, he is already facing the Sporting Netherlands in football. His medical records reads like a thriller. He broke his foot when he was still playing at the academy, dozens of minor and medium injuries followed until he suffered a hamstring in 2025, and more long injuries followed consistently. Now he plays, if he's not injured, for Cesena in Serie C and earns 36,000 a year. Due to his high reputation, he's already demanding a better contract. Let's see if he can give his career another slight boost. I really wish it for him. But now let's go to the motherland of football, England. William Thompson is an absolute beast. The 20-year-old English international has been a regular player since he was 17. First at Nottingham Forest in the Championship and then at Norwich in the Premier League. He has an injury-prone value of 2 and consistency value of 17 contribute to this. He has already played 136 professional games in 4 years and was injured just 10 days in approximately 1,500 days, both times in training. Players like him are incredibly valuable to a team. Norwich will definitely not be the last stop for him. I still have so much more to tell, but I don't have time to create the longest video in history of YouTube. It's really unbelievable how such a save game can cast a spell on you without even training a team yourself. That would have been it for this episode. The simulation will continue, but I also need Football Manager for future updates, so it could take a little longer. But the plan is to simulate it until at least 2014, before Football Manager 22 is released. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel at this point in time, you now have another opportunity to do so again. If you would like to learn more about me and my project and even more content, then I warmly welcome you to my Patreon. I hope you liked the video and see you next time. Cheers, Daveincid.